Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fourth and Goal, the show where we basically just go and talk about everything with sports. So, the NFL draft is going to be tonight. It is going to be on ESPN, ABC, some other networks, and it's basically every single year that it happens, game changer. Franchises can improve, or they can decrease in their stock. So, yeah. So, anyone got any thoughts about that?
Well, I'm excited to watch the draft tonight. It's filming on in the NFL Network, ESPN. Starts at 7. I'm excited. The team with the first pick is the Jags. So I'm excited to see where the quarterback from Ohio goes. Let's see that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good draft. There's some good prospects and everything like that. So we just go out to see how things go because we don't want no bust or nothing. But it's gonna be an interesting little thing because it wasn't really much of a big season because of COVID. So it's gonna be a real interesting thing to see where these boys go and if they can produce the same they produced in college and the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things is a lot of interesting talk. Like you said, Erica, the quarterback from Ohio State, Justin Fields, and some of the issues with him. Not really issues per se, but I would say that there's been like his draft stock. I've seen it in my YouTube feed, like from ESPN. A lot of people who do sports coverage and thing like that. His his stock is like going. Sometimes it's going up, sometimes it's going down, and sort of like whenever you look at things like that, I think one of the things that they try to put him like not being in first round quarterback, even though whenever he was at Ohio State he was doing pretty great, but there is some things that they said that typical words like such as leadership, and things that they kind of just have those same things that talk about his athleticism, his speed, things like that. But whenever it came to words like leadership, that and other things like that, how it is like with black quarterbacks, and how only recently it's that we've been really seeing them get a chance to do what they do in the NFL, because most times you're a black quarterback in college, at least how it was back in the day, you pretty much had to transition to wide receiver and in the National Football League in order to be able to be in that position. I think there is a guy from FSU who won the Heisman for football, college football. He played there, but he also did basketball. And whenever it came, time to be, enter himself into the draft or into basketball, even though he was a Heisman player, like he went towards an NBA, and that's just one of the things that happens. That even though he won the Heisman best player, in all of college football, that wasn't like really a viable option because of the things that surround black quarterbacks, that they're kind of typified one way or another. So it's kind of like you're seeing this same thing happen with Justin Fields. And if a team can just give him a chance and see him thrive, especially there are a lot of I'd say there's probably 4 teams that really could be using a guy like him. The Jags, they're the number one pick. They have the number one pick. Probably will go with Trevor Lawrence, but then it's kind of like, the second, third quarterback off the people are able to pick up. It's kind of like anyone's game. I've seen a lot of people on that, list who I haven't even heard of before. It's kind of just like it really is a guessing game. You don't know who's going to get picked up until, it happens. So some people will rise, some people will fall. We've seen this a number of times. So it's just going to be a very interesting draft, and we'll see where everyone goes. But hopefully,
How do you feel about the certain receivers like Devontae Smith from Alabama?
Drew, do you want to go first or me go first?
You can go.
So with that, I think that they're like I said with Justin Fields, how they, against, black quarterbacks. There's also a thing against undersized wide receivers. You typically, you want your wide receiver to be sort of like, they 6'3", they got to be like, 200 or something pounds. They got to be like, in that sort of image. And Devontae Smith, even though like he was a Heisman contender, he put out stellar numbers, for his last season at Alabama. You do all that stuff, and people are saying, "Hey, that might not, transition to the NFL." And it's kind of just like there are a lot of people who think that wide receivers, and this is just for all positions, that people have to be built a certain way in order to be able to do what they need to. And maybe that might be, true for a lot of people, for a lot of guys that have been able to succeed in the NFL. But sometimes, you just got to see, if it works, it works. So definitely you want to see guys like him who might, some people consider, hey, he's undersized. He's not big enough. He doesn't, he doesn't weigh enough for things like that, to just sort of see what he can do there. Because I remember, 2 years ago, DK Metcalf, he was an outstanding prospect. I remember seeing like all the hype videos, because everyone was like, dude's the next Megatron, or Calvin Johnson, and he looked outstanding whenever he was doing his combine drills. Like he did the 40 incredibly fast. He did the had one of the longest broad jumps. It was just amazing to see him do all that stuff. And then when it comes to draft night, he doesn't end up being one of the top wide receivers selected. So, and look where he is at right now. He's one of if not arguably one of the top wide receivers in the league. So it has nothing to do with how people see you. Sometimes it's all about where you end up, the organization, and it has a lot to do with, what you can do. Sometimes people, all they need is a chance. So we'll definitely see what happens there with Devontae Smith.
I feel as if for Devontae Smith, he is in a way like he kind of just got his chance due to the injury of one of the Alabama's past wide receivers. And I feel like that's the only reason he got a chance to really be this top and like this high in the draft pick. What is he? I think he's sitting like fifth for like the top prospects in the draft as a wide receiver. I know there's the LSU wide receiver is kind of above him right now. What's his name? Jamar. That's his name. And me being an LSU fan, I like that one, but I do see where you're coming from with Devontae Smith, and I like how he moved. They moved him around more on the field, and he kind of he progressed more. He played like he really wanted it. He knows what he wants. So he went after it. But I do think it'll be difficult for him when he does enter the NFL.
Yeah. With that being said, we'll take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Even though there is so much against us,
you will see me choose to protect myself and my community from the coronavirus by wearing a face covering.
Because it's going to take all of us thinking about one another.
And even with my face covered, you will see me.
You will see me as a mother, a wife, a friend.
As an athlete who gave everything to the game I love.
As a father, leading by example.
As a sister.
An entertainer.
As a champion for my people.
You will see me finding a light in a dark time.
To unlock our creativity and push our craft.
You will see me demanding the space to tell the stories that matter.
As a man who knows that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Join us in wearing a face covering to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because covering your face is one small act of kindness that has the power to bring us together.
Traditions are not made overnight. They are created through a legacy of excellence and a commitment to something much greater. For more than 135 years, Prairie View A&M University has provided students with a strong academic foundation, a unique college experience, and the opportunity to make their mark on the world. This is a place where friendships are formed, discoveries are made, and dreams are realized. This is Prairie View A&M University. Our tradition, your opportunity.
And we're back with fourth and goal. So just continuing NFL draft day coverage. Now we're going to look at it more from the team perspective. And when I mean that, a lot of teams have the opportunity to be able to have a first round pick. Unfortunately, my team, the Houston Texans, are not one of those teams, but a lot of teams are able to pick the first round, and that's really going to be hopefully, someone who can be a talent that can help their team for, many seasons to come. And so with the first round pick, the Jags will probably most likely select Trevor Lawrence. So I kind of want to look at it from that aspect, since pretty much it's almost a lock that Trevor Lawrence will be picked by the Jaguars with the first overall pick. How do you see this benefiting the Jacksonville Jaguars?
We're picking Trevor Lawrence. I'm just saying, Trevor Lawrence is good. I'm not saying he's not. He led the Clemson to win a couple national championships with them. The thing is college and the NFL are two different things. And I feel like, especially because of COVID, that players that played in college didn't really have much of a chance to really show. I mean, they did in a sense, but their seasons were so cut short that it actually kind of messed it up a little. Especially for the NFL, the season was cut short that a lot of people would end up getting hurt. So that's another thing you got to take an example of to that. With the Jags possibly selecting Trevor Lawrence as the first round pick for the quarterback position, that's a good fit. You still need some receivers over there that's going to need his help. That's the only issue that I would have with that, is that the Jags receiving core is not all what they used to be. They actually traded a lot of man. They got their defense is not the same as it used to be as well either. So that's still just going to be a struggle that he's going to have to deal with. And just as a young player coming into the NFL, he's going to be able to have to really take that time to learn the craft and learn the people around him to really help solidify that chemistry that's going to help. They are in the AFC, which is another one of those tough conferences, not as tough as the NFC, but they still have to deal with the Chiefs and other people like that, the Steelers and other playoff contenders that would have made it to the Super Bowl from last year. But at the same time, it's the first year. They probably might not play them the first couple games. They might just get them to just mentor and everything. But I feel like he'll be able to turn them around once they get it together.
Yep. So with the Jags having the first pick, the second pick goes to the Jets. What do you think the Jets going for?
They can go for whoever they want. it will not end up good and favorable for the Jets, because the Jets, it's all about organizations and, where people can land. And the Jets just right now are, because it used to be the Cleveland Browns. It used to be the Cleveland Browns were, the team that were the one of the worst in the league by far. Finished 0-16, one of the only teams to do that. But they bounced back, with Baker Mayfield, with getting Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, all those guys, and you saw it in the first round of the playoffs when they basically blew out the Steelers in that first quarter, and then that's all they really needed. So with the Jets, it's kind of like you kind of it's kind of like they could pick whoever, you know. I mean, they could pick a quarterback. They can honestly, I could see them picking, a quarterback with the second round pick, seeing as how Sam Darnold has had his moments, but also has not been able to, do stuff with, with what's there. I mean, the Jets, they're just a very funky team right now, and even if they do, pick
You're
someone
saying
with the
whoever
second round.
you're saying whoever they pick, they're still going to be in the same level, the same spot that they were before.
Unless they choose, a very transformative player who can just, change the shape of that organization and not be affected basically by whatever is there over, New York Jets. I mean, they're going to have to choose someone who's going to change the culture of that team, because right now the Jets have a losing culture. You got to choose someone who can change, what the aspect of that team is. So they're going to have to be very smart with their selection, because if they don't, it's going to be one of, in a long line of very, promising players, because if you select someone with the second overall pick, you're basically saying, hey, this is either the second best player that was available, or this was the best player for us. Either way, that player is going to be very good. And if they do not produce, then you can look at the player and say, well, he was a bust. But you can also look at the organization and say, what did they do to this person? Why didn't it necessarily work out for them? So for the Jets, hopefully something works out. Hopefully they get the right pick for them. Hopefully they get the right guy. But I don't think so. I think that they just lounge in the bottom, for just a little bit more, because they're the Jets, and I don't see anywhere up for them. Not right now. I mean, they could surprise me, and they could pull a Cleveland Browns and resurge and not be the worst team in the NFL basically, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
And it also has to deal with the coaching too, as well, if you think about it. Because you can have a team with great players, but the coaching ain't calling the right plays and the right things to do. Like that's not the player's fault. Like you can't expect to call like a cover 2, and they doing streaks. Like, that's not gonna make sense.
Yeah. That brings me up to that. Adam Gase. How did I forget Adam Gase? Because he, in his 2 years there, I think they have might have 3 wins and the rest of them losses. But there was a play where they could have, I think it was a play where they could have won the game, and all they had to do was basically make sure that the other team didn't pull off the Hail Mary, and of course their defense gives up the Hail Mary, and the other team wins the game. So it's just like it definitely, to Drew's point, has to do with coaching and the people that are there. So there's a lot players can do, but ultimately it comes down to coaching. So when we come back, we'll be discussing hot takes and whether the WNBA should or should not lower down the rims. That much more coming after the break.
Prairie View A&M University is about the students. Students don't just come here for the education. They come for the faculty, for the creativity, the camaraderie, an excellent standard of living, and the school spirit. They come here to gain something profound and to give something back. Students come for the tradition of excellence. This is Prairie View A&M University. Our tradition, your opportunity.
At Prairie View A&M University, we've been igniting passion in students for more than 140 years. It's about inspiration. It's about global influence. It's about self-expression and individuality. It's about trailblazing a path of excellence. It's about engaging in the greater community. Above all, it's about helping you realize your dreams. Ignite your passion. Experience Prairie View A&M University.
And we are back. So last segment before we go off is this. So do you guys think that with the WNBA, which, you know, how it is, where a lot of things, you know, people can, you know, argue and debate, because I know this is a very controversial topic, whether, you know, the rim of the basketball should or should not be lowered so that, you know, you can see, you know, women dunking, so that it can sort of bring a lot more fans in. And, you know, I can sort of see like both sides of the argument. You know, one, you can see the fan that wants to see, you know, action, you know, see more highlights, you could say, because while the NBA is great, no, not everybody, not every single NBA fan watches every single game. It's honestly what, you know, sometimes the game comes down to is just watching the highlights of the game. And whenever you see those moments where one guy is posterizing another, those are, you know, can't miss moments that you're just like, wow, I really wish, you know, maybe I had seen the game live. So those sort of things like make you want to watch the game, versus like in the WNBA, you know, there are only like a few women who have ever, you know, dunked, and it's kind of like you want to be able to have a product where you can bring in more people. More people brings in more advertising and things like that, and, you know, more advertising and, you know, commercials and things like that would bring in more money. So it's kind of like a win-win all around. But at the same time, there is, you know, the stuff that they're already used to. So I just wanted to see you guys' opinion on that matter.
Me personally, I agree with lowering the rim. Not what am I trying to say? I agree with lowering the rim because it will bring more money to the WNBA. The WNBA is low financially. Not a lot of people tune into the WNBA. Like, for instance, I don't tune into the WNBA, but I do watch college women's basketball. Do I watch professional? No. But I do enjoy watching at college. And on top of that, I have a lot of friends, a lot of people I went to school with that do play basketball in college and have furthered their career into the WNBA. And I feel like lowering the rims, there's more action. There's more action on the court. They could do more with lowering the rims to where people are going to want to tune into their games, tune into what's going on, tune in to see who wouldn't want to see plenty of women dunking on the court like they're 7 feet men. Like, who wouldn't want to see that? So I feel like lowering the rim is a good idea in this aspect to bring more money and bring more fans and more. It's a marketing thing. It's a business. It's everything. Everything is a business. So I feel like, you know, everything is a job. So lowering the rim will bring more money and fans to the WNBA, and I think it's a great idea.
Okay. What about you, Drew?
I mean, to be honest with you, like, yeah, WNBA need to get more respect because, I mean, at the end of the day, those are women athletes. They're athletes at the end of the day. They deserve the same respect as men. I will say that the dunking is the difference between the WNBA and the men's is like, it's like, yeah, you got the dunking, you got the crossover, you got like, but I feel like with the men, it's more action than it is with the WNBA. It's like WNBA is kind of censored a little bit. They don't really let the girls like really go in at it like that. Lowering the rims would help because I know them girls be talking about they want to dunk, so they'll be able to show off their little windmills and their little freestyle dunks. And I think that would be a good little thing to people to see that. And it's like, dang, like they really can do the same thing men can do at the same time. So I'm all for it. I feel like there's more than just the rim being changed that needs to be in the WNBA, because it's like I said, like, yeah, you go introduce dunking into it, but if you watch an NBA game compared to a WNBA game, it's more than the dunking. It's the crossover, it's the dribble, it's the jawing, it's the talking, it's them boys is really playing. And it's like the females, like I've seen a couple girl games, and it's like they play just to play, which is what the boys do. But it's like it seems like the boys are more passionate about playing. Like it's
have more love for the game.
Yeah, it's more love. It's more enthusiastic about it. Like,
and I agree with you. I see what you're saying. If I'm comparing it to women's college basketball and professional women's college basketball, I see what you're saying, to where like if I'm watching a college game, women, there it's more action, it's more talking, they going at it how you're saying in the NBA they're doing. And I'm saying that women do that in college basketball due to the fact they're trying to make it to the WNBA. So I feel like when they make it to the WNBA, it's like, all right, I got my goal, I'm doing what I love to do, and that's what I'm here for. Versus in college, they're trying to get to that point. So it's action. They're going hard on the court every time they get out there. They're not soft versus how they are in the WNBA. That's how I feel. So I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, if we're just talking about action and things like that, I think another aspect of why you could say that the college women's basketball can be more entertaining than the WNBA is probably the fans, because at women's college basketball games, you kind of have like, all the students like sort of show up. They have their own student section. Is like whenever it's like a home game, when people play, it's like you're rooting for your team, like you're rooting for not only your team but your fellow students that are out there on the court, and they're putting in work and they're playing their hearts out. Versus with the WNBA, I kind of feel like I don't really know a lot of teams. Like I can maybe name one or two teams. I can name like Las Vegas Aces. There's like Houston Comets. That was way back in the day, but they won like 4 championships in a row. But all those things.
I can barely name them too, but I can name players though. Teams, I don't know any WNBA teams, except one of my close friends just got drafted to one of the teams from, she went to University of Arizona. But I feel like there's no one pays attention to the WNBA, and it sucks. And I don't think that's just I just don't think that's just the women's basketball. Like I don't think that's the WNBA's fault. I really don't. I feel like it's everybody's fault. They just need more attention. And like Drew said, it's not just about lowering the rims. They need to do a lot more advertising, put it out there. Like we see NFL commercials, NBA commercials. We see players on commercials all the time. Do you see any professional women basketball players on commercials, advertisements, magazines, anything? No. So it's not just about lowering the rims for them to get higher revenue or for them to get more money. We just don't see them. No one knows who they are.
I said like this. Y'all remember Lisa Leslie when she was probably one of the only girls to actually dunk? Everybody was hyped over her because she could actually dunk. And that was not even lowering the rim. Like, and I've met Lisa Leslie in person. She is tall. Like, it's like, whoa, like I ain't even finna cap. So it's like, even for something like that, they advertised it so much because it's like Lisa Leslie, she one of the only females in the WNBA that can dunk. and stuff like that. And that was without lowering the rim. So that made people want to start watching the LA Sparks. And it's like, since she left, they ain't really been hearing about WNBA like that no more. Like you hear about these girls till they get to college, then they get drafted, then you don't hear about them no more. But you will hear about the boys being drafted to the league, and then now it's the league. Like even with the championship, they had the playoffs. The WNBA playoffs was the same time during the men's playoffs, but it wasn't as advertised like that. And the only time they did advertise it was during a male playoff game, which only there would be another male playoff game right after that, and they played them at the same time. So it's like if it's really like a choice between them, I can watch the NBA or the WNBA, and they both playing at the same time playoff games, I'm gonna watch the NBA. Like nothing against what the girls got, but I know the NBA is more entertaining than what the WNBA got.
Yeah, and this will be like one of the last points, but I think that kind of sort of like I'll compare it to LaMelo Ball. I love me some LaMelo Ball. I will watch his highlights on YouTube all day long. And the thing is that I don't even like LeVar Ball. I don't really. I mean, I like when he's like I can kind of like see the appeal of like whenever he and Stephen A were on ESPN and they're on First Take and they're having their old shouting match. But I think for a lot of people it's like they don't necessarily like LeVar Ball, the dad, but they love LaMelo. They love his work ethic. They love his hustle. They love all of that. And a part of what led to that is that basically LaMelo Ball has had social media, a camera in his face, all of his life. So it's kind of like whenever he got to the NBA, he already had experience, playing professionals overseas. And whenever he got to where he was, it's kind of like, he maybe had like a few bad games toward the beginning and people already writing him off. Then he had, a string of games, and that's when he became the new thing. So I think that with how it is nowadays with social media, I think that, I think with the WNBA, it's all about having new people, new stars, new followings, that people that, can follow these people and they're going to be like, yeah, I remember watching this person in high school and I watched them in college. And now all it is making sure that the transition from the fans who watch them at these various points in their stages, that you kind of sort of make sure that it's easily transitionable to the WNBA. So it's kind of like I'm invested in what this player does. And that way you bring in a whole lot of fans. So I think that social media might help that. And it could also help if, there is like there's like, LeBron James or Michael Jordan or someone who just stands out as being so much better than everyone else. Because then that's how you are able to, kind of market yourself. I mean, sure, it's like, you can have like a whole bunch of stars and like everybody knows, like, in the NBA, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, the Jaylen Browns, the Jason Tatums. But if you're just to say NBA to any person who doesn't regularly watch it, they'll say LeBron James. So that's kind of what they need in terms of they need a face. If they have a face, then they can sort of like branch it out so that everything go the way it is. But yeah, so I think that's all of our time for today. But any of y'all have any last things I want to say?
No.
All right, then we'll just end it right here. I don't know if we'll be doing an episode next week because that'll be the end of the school year. So maybe this was our last episode. I hope not, because I was able to bring one of Prairie View's men and women's golf coach was he wanted to be able to. I was able to kind of book him in. So we will definitely see in for next week if we will be able to do that. And yeah, we'll just sign off for now. And thank you guys for tuning in. See ya.